What if I told you that taking your final breath isn't the end of you, but the beginning of the most profound and sacred journey your soul will ever know? You've heard the phrase, "when someone takes their last breath," countless times. It sounds so final, so complete, as if a door slams shut and there's nothing on the other side but silence. But what if that silence isn't empty? What if it's the soft stillness before something immense unfolds? Not an ending, but a return. Imagine this moment. Your breath grows slower, your body heavy, your surroundings fade into a soft blur. There's a point where your lungs no longer expand, your heart gives one final beat, and your body sinks into stillness. But here's the truth they never taught you. Even though your physical form has gone quiet, you are still very much awake. Not in the way you were moments before, but in a way that is sharper, more expansive, unbound. It doesn't happen with flashing lights or fanfare. There's no booming voice or curtain to step through. It begins with awareness, a subtle, serene awareness. One that notices, "I am still here." You'll feel it before you even think it, and that's the strange part. You're not thinking with your brain anymore. You're not feeling with nerves. You're not seeing with eyes, but you, the real you, still exists. In fact, you've never felt more present. Separation from the body is nothing like the fear-based images you've been given. There's no tearing, no trauma. It's more like the soft release of a bird from an open hand, a gentle unhooking, a dissolving of the weight you didn't realize you were carrying. As your body lies still, your consciousness lifts, not upward, necessarily, but outward, as though you've slipped through the edge of the skin into something far more spacious than the physical world could ever contain. And then, silence. Not silence like the absence of noise, but a sacred kind of silence. The kind you feel in the middle of the forest at dawn. The kind you experience just before a deep revelation arrives. This is the moment after the final heartbeat. The moment when the machinery of the body has stopped, but you remain. You'll likely be surprised by it. Surprised that you're still aware, still perceiving, still being. Time, as you once knew it, unravels. There's no ticking clock, no urgency. You don't feel panic or confusion. What you feel is weightlessness. Not just physical, but emotional, mental. Like all the noise and distraction that cluttered your human life is beginning to fall away. You begin to see how many thoughts were never truly yours. How much of your identity was a costume, something you wore to fit into the world. But now, there's no need to perform. You may notice sensations, not as physical touch, but as energetic impressions. A lightness, a subtle pull, like a current drawing you forward. You don't resist, because there's no fear. Even if you were terrified of death in life, this moment changes everything. You realize quickly that death is nothing like you imagined. In fact, the word death doesn't even fit, because you didn't end. You shifted. You became more of what you truly are. Your consciousness may linger close to your body at first. You may see it. You may feel the presence of others in the room. You may hear their tears, their prayers, their silence. But strangely, you'll feel detached, not cold, not uncaring, just expanded. You can feel their love, but it doesn't bind you. You want to comfort them, but you already sense that where you're going, you'll be able to do more for them than you ever could in life. There's no need for language. Thoughts don't form into words, they arise as knowing. You begin to understand things you never could before. Not because someone is explaining them to you, but because truth is now intuitive. It arrives without effort. You don't analyze it, you remember it. It's as if you've just awakened from a long dream, and everything that was once mysterious now feels obvious. You may ask yourself, where am I? But even before the question is complete, you understand, you're in the space between. A threshold, not yet gone, but no longer here. The veil you heard about your whole life, you're standing in it. And it's not a wall, it's a mist, a shimmer, a gentle in-between, a sacred passage. Some souls experience a brief moment of resistance, not fear, but attachment. The mind wants to stay, to linger in the known. But those attachments begin to dissolve, not forcibly, but naturally. Like breath exhaling, the body, once so familiar, now feels foreign, like an old garment you've outgrown. You may sense a presence, something watching, something waiting, not to judge, but to welcome. It's not necessarily a person, or even a form. It might feel like light, like warmth, like being wrapped in an intelligence so vast and loving it makes you weep without tears. This is the presence of Source, of guides, of something ancient that has always walked with you, silently, in life. Now, it steps forward, and you realize, this isn't the first time you've died. You've been here before, not as a thought, but as a deep, cellular knowing. The path ahead is not unfamiliar, it's a return, a reunion. You feel this more than you understand it. Everything that once felt so serious, the arguments, the expectations, the self-criticism, becomes small, almost humorous. And what remains? The love you gave, the love you held back. The moments you were fully present, the way you made others feel. These ripple outward like waves in a still pond. And in this first moment after death, in this still, sacred space, you realize something extraordinary. You are not gone, you are free, you are not the end, you are the beginning. It begins with silence. Not the kind of silence you hear in a quiet room, or even in nature's stillness, but a silence that lives inside you. A silence so absolute that, for a moment, you wonder if you've disappeared entirely. But then, something unexpected, you realize you can still feel. Not with hands or skin, but with a presence that is both lighter and sharper than you've ever known. You're still here, aware, conscious, present, but your body is somewhere else. There's no pain, no breath, no heartbeat, yet you're not afraid, at least not yet. What you feel instead is confusion, a strange kind of suspension, as if you've slipped between the folds of time and reality. You look down, or try to, and see the place you were just moments ago. Maybe it's a hospital bed. Maybe it's the side of a road. Maybe it's a room filled with people you love, but you're no longer in that scene. You're just outside of it, watching, hovering, absorbing. The first thing you notice is the clarity. Everything is sharper than before. You don't see with eyes, you perceive. The colors are more vibrant. The emotions of those around you are louder than words. You feel their sorrow pouring from them like a wave. Grief, disbelief, regret. You want to reach out. You want to tell them you're okay, that you're right here, that you haven't vanished. You try to speak, to scream, to whisper, but no sound leaves you. Not because you've lost your voice, but because voice is no longer how you communicate. You move, though not with legs. It's more like intention guides your motion. Where you focus, you go, and you focus on them, the ones you love most. You see their tears, you feel their longing. You want to comfort them, but no matter how close you hover, no matter how loudly your essence tries to make itself known, they don't see you. Some might pause and look around, sensing something, but they dismiss it as a thought or a breeze. You are the invisible presence they feel but can't explain. The hardest part isn't the separation, it's the disbelief, not from them, but from you. There's a part of you still convinced this isn't real, that maybe you're dreaming, that you'll wake up soon, open your eyes, take a breath, and shake off this surreal state. But you don't. You stay, watching, drifting, feeling. It's like trying to remember a word that's just on the tip of your tongue, except the word is your own name, and you're no longer sure it even matters. You see your body, yes, your former body, and for a moment, you don't recognize it. It looks like a costume you wore for a very long time, familiar but distant. Like an old photograph of a version of you that you don't fully identify with anymore. And then, the realization begins to settle. A whisper at first, then louder. I'm dead. But even as the word forms in your awareness, it doesn't feel accurate. You're not gone, you're still you. So how could you be dead? That question loops in your consciousness as you remain tethered to the people and places that made up your world. You feel their stories continuing without you. Their memories, their aching love. You want to console them. You want to tell them that death is not what they think it is, that you are not lost, that they haven't truly lost you, but there's an invisible wall between worlds. It doesn't block you completely, but it muffles your attempts to bridge the divide. You're close, but not reachable. And here's the part no one ever told you. During this first night, the soul stays close, not because it has to, because it wants to. because letting go is harder than you imagined. Not because of fear, but because of love. The kind of love that doesn't end just because a heartbeat does. The kind of love that still wants to protect, explain, and stay a little longer. You remain near your family, your home, your favorite places. You revisit scenes from your life. You may even try to retrace your old routines, walking through walls without realizing you can. And for a while, you don't move on, not because you're trapped, but because your soul is absorbing the magnitude of what just happened. The shift is monumental. It's like being pulled from the ocean and suddenly realizing you were never the water, you were the current beneath it. On this first night, you're in between, not fully here, not fully there. The veil is thin, but it's still a veil. You notice strange things. Time doesn't behave the same way. A second stretches like an hour collapses into a blink. You feel as if you're in a dream that's more real than waking life ever was. But instead of waking up, you're waking into something. Something vast, unnameable, and yet deeply familiar. Some souls panic in this space. Others feel peaceful. It depends on who you were and how you lived. If your life was filled with fear of death, that fear may rise like steam from your memories. But if you lived with curiosity, or even spiritual openness, then the experience feels like a grand exhale, a surrender into something much larger than yourself. Still, the shock of still being here lingers. You're not a ghost. You're not an angel. You're not what religion told you. You're you, but unbound, lighter, expansive, but still processing the surreal nature of this new state. You wonder what happens next. You wonder if someone is coming for you. A guide, a light, a familiar face. You don't know yet, and that not knowing is both thrilling and unsettling. You may try to sleep, but sleep is unnecessary. You may look for a mirror, but there's no reflection. You search for the familiar as an anchor, but everything familiar now floats just out of reach. You're beginning to understand. The rules you once lived by no longer apply. You're in a new reality now, one not bound by biology or gravity. But for this first sacred night, you remain close to the life you just left. You linger, not because you must, but because there's a part of you that needs to say goodbye. Not to others, because goodbye implies separation, but to who you thought you were. You hover over your own life like a visitor in a museum, observing the artifacts of your story. Some things make you smile, others make you ache. But all of it, every second, every breath, every choice, was yours. And now, something greater awaits. But not yet. For this night, you stay, watching, remembering, softly stunned that you're still here. Still aware, still you, but no longer bound. What if the moment after death doesn't sweep you away instantly into some distant light, but instead pulls you back through everything you've ever touched, loved, feared, or left undone? As you move beyond that first realization, the gentle shock that you are still conscious, still aware, something stirs deep within your energetic field. It's not fear, it's gravity. Not the gravity that binds you to the earth by weight, but the emotional gravity of the life you just left behind. You feel it like a thread stretching from your soul to your former world, delicate, yet undeniable. This is the pull of the unfinished, the pull of all you were not ready to let go of. In this second night after death, your consciousness hovers, not because it's forced to, but because a part of you chooses to. There are still echoes playing in the background of your energy, voices, memories, places. You find yourself drawn to familiar rooms, familiar faces. You drift not as a ghost, but as awareness, unseen to the eyes of the living, but deeply present. You move through your home, not through walls but through vibration. You don't walk, you resonate. You find yourself standing by the bed where your body once rested, the same couch where you laughed with your family, the kitchen where morning light used to spill through the windows. And although your physical senses are gone, you feel everything, not in pieces, but all at once. Every memory stored in those spaces lives as an energetic echo, and you are now inside those echoes. You may witness someone crying for you, and feel a strange duality. One part of you aches with love for them, the other part watches without resistance, knowing that grief is sacred too. But it's not just the people you loved that call to you. It's the unfinished conversations, the unresolved tensions, the words never spoken. These hang in the air like fog, waiting for acknowledgement. Not for correction, not for repair, but for witnessing. You might find yourself standing by someone you hurt, not with shame, but with a yearning to understand. You feel what they felt, the sting, the betrayal, the disappointment, not as punishment, but as perspective. And just as powerfully, you feel the joy you gave, the comfort of a kind word, the ripple of one small act of love you barely remembered. These emotional imprints don't fade with death. They remain in the field of existence, imprinted not just on others, but on you. The human mind thinks of time as a line, but here, there is no past or future, only emotional memory, emotional energy. What was unresolved finds its way to you, not to haunt you, but to be held. A kind of soul reconciliation begins. And it's not logical. You don't go through a checklist of mistakes and triumphs. Instead, you feel the energetic fingerprint of each relationship, each chapter, and each choice. And it's all still there, not to punish, not to reward, but to be seen, fully, as it was. This is the stage where trauma rises gently to the surface, not to re-injure you, but to be integrated. If you carried deep pain in life, wounds from childhood, betrayals, secrets you buried, you may feel those same patterns stir within your field. You don't relive them in detail. You relive their emotional imprint. You feel the fear that never got released, the anger that was never expressed, the guilt you tried to ignore, and because your soul now exists beyond the defenses of the ego, you feel it all with open arms. There is no resistance here, only truth. And through this surrender, healing begins. You might find yourself revisiting the places where these emotions took root, the hallway where you screamed as a child, the school where you felt invisible, the room where your heart broke wide open. These aren't memories, they are energetic rooms. Your soul returns not to be trapped in them, but to free the pieces of yourself you left behind. Every moment you dissociated, every emotion you couldn't face, remains suspended in vibration, and now, you are the one with the power to collect those fragments and make them whole. This is why many souls linger, not because they fear what's ahead, but because they long to make peace with what's behind. Love holds them, so does guilt. Regret is a powerful tether, so is longing. A soul may hover over a child they left too soon. They may visit a partner they betrayed. They may return to the place where everything changed, not to change it, but to understand it. And the understanding doesn't come in words, it comes in resonance. You feel the truth in your bones, or rather, in the space where your bones once were. You feel how your actions rippled, how your silence echoed, how your presence, or absence, shaped someone's entire world. And perhaps for the first time, you understand how much you mattered, even in moments when you thought you didn't. The soul also begins to recognize its own illusions. Things that seemed so important in life, status, appearance, validation, begin to dissolve like smoke. You start to see what was real beneath it all. The laughter you shared, the moments of stillness, the choice to be kind when no one was watching. These are the things that glimmer like gold in the fabric of your energetic memory. These are the threads that remain. But this night is not only about sorrow or reconciliation. It is also about tenderness. You may visit someone you love deeply and feel their energy as they sleep, their dreams brushing against yours in a way they'll never consciously understand. You may see your pet curled in your old chair and feel the unwavering bond that even death cannot sever. You may see someone looking at your photo, whispering words they never got to say, and in that moment, they'll feel a warmth they can't explain. That's you. The emotional echo of love is the most powerful of all. It travels farther than pain, vibrates higher than regret. It creates bridges between the realms. It allows you to be remembered not just as someone who died, but as someone who still lives in the hearts of others. And that love isn't just a memory, it's an energy that you now bathe in. But even in all this, there's a subtle confusion that arises. Part of you knows you're no longer of the world, and yet, you still feel so close to it. The places, the people, the stories. Your soul longs to know, can I finish what I started? Can I tell them I'm okay? Can I fix what I left broken? And the answer is not always clear. Not yet. Because this stage isn't about fixing, it's about feeling. It's about fully inhabiting the echoes so you can release them. It's about holding your life like a sacred book, not to rewrite it, but to read it with your soul's eyes for the first time. As the second night comes to a close, something in you begins to loosen. The gravitational pull of the earthly world starts to soften. You've lingered long enough to see what needed to be seen, to feel what still had weight. And now, slowly, the pull begins to reverse. The earth no longer holds you, love does. And love, unlike anything else, will not bind you, it will guide you forward. You begin to notice something strange, an awareness that you're no longer alone, even if no one is visibly standing beside you. It isn't like how it was when you were alive, where presence meant form, where someone's arrival came with footsteps, breath, or sound. This is something deeper, a shift in the atmosphere, as if the very space around you has turned its head to acknowledge you. You feel watched, but not in a way that unsettles you. It feels sacred, like something ancient and wise has just taken notice of your arrival. You don't see them with eyes, not at first, but their presence is undeniable. It's like a soft current of energy brushes against your being, stirring something dormant inside you. The sensation is difficult to describe, but somehow you know it intuitively. Someone is here, someone has been waiting. Not waiting to judge, but to guide, to witness you as you awaken in this new plane of existence. You've entered the space where the Watchers reside. These are not random beings, they are connected to you. Some are familiar, not by face, but by vibration. Their energy feels like an old song you once knew by heart and forgot until now. You sense recognition in a form that bypasses memory. There is no need for names, no need for explanations. You simply know, these are your guides. Some may have walked beside you in life without you ever realizing it. Others may be ancestral presences you never met in the physical realm but who have known you long before you were born. Their connection to you is not rooted in blood alone, but in the soul's lineage, a thread that stretches across lifetimes, woven through purpose and resonance. And still, as they draw nearer, you hesitate. Even now, a part of you clings to the familiar weight of your former life. You feel exposed in this light. Not judged, but revealed. Every thought, every emotion, every truth you hid from yourself in the physical world feels visible here. It's not that they are seeing your secrets, it's that you are seeing them clearly for the first time. And for some souls, that becomes overwhelming. Not every soul welcomes this meeting right away. Some resist. They recoil into the shadows of their own unresolved stories. They hide, not because they are trapped, but because they are not yet ready to face themselves. Some souls retreat to the echoes of their earthly identity, trying to relive old routines, clinging to familiar settings. They may remain near their homes, or linger where their bodies were last seen, hoping to find solace in repetition. The Watchers do not interfere. They wait, patiently, silently, with a kind of loving stillness that holds space but never forces. But if you're open, just a little, you begin to feel it, their invitation, not through words, not through language as you once knew it. This communication is direct, energetic, pure. You feel it in your core, like a note being struck within your being. They speak without sound, and yet you understand. Their messages unfold inside of you like a thought that didn't come from your mind, but from a deeper source, one you'd forgotten how to access. There is no pressure in their presence, no demands, only gentle encouragement. You are being invited to move forward, to let go of the gravitational pull of the material world. They are not pulling you, they are calling you. Like a melody pulling you out of a dream, not to wake you, but to draw you deeper into the truth of what you are. For some, this is the first true moment of surrender. You realize you are not drifting aimlessly. There is a path unfolding, and these beings are part of it. They do not command it, they reveal it. They offer light in places where your soul still clings to shadow, not to burn those shadows away, but to help you see through them. The Watchers are here to remind you that death is not disconnection. It is return, and return does not mean retreat, it means remembrance. You may feel emotion rise in you, deep, raw, and vast, a love so complete it collapses your resistance, a recognition so full it transcends anything you've ever felt in a human relationship. This love is not personal in the way you once defined love. It does not seek or possess. It is a mirror that reflects the eternal back into you, saying, "You are not lost, you never were." There's a moment, quiet, pivotal, where you choose, not with words, not with logic, but with your essence. You choose whether to step closer to the light you now feel opening before you, or to remain near the fading echoes of your former life. Both choices are honored. There is no punishment for hesitation. Growth is never rushed here. But the invitation stands, glowing softly, like a door that doesn't close. Some souls step forward quickly, hungry for the next layer of discovery. Others linger, unsure, feeling torn between their human attachments and the soul's pull toward truth. But whatever pace you move at, the watchers remain. They walk beside you, or they wait for you. They are never absent. As you begin to move toward them, toward whatever lies beyond this first layer of death, you feel something shift inside. It's subtle, like the untying of a knot you didn't know was there. You start to release the story of who you were. Not forget, release. There's a difference. You're not erasing the life you lived. You're making peace with it. And that peace begins to take shape as a kind of light within you, as if your soul is remembering how to glow. The further you move toward these beings, the less you feel like you're walking, and the more it feels like you're becoming. Not becoming someone else, but becoming more you than you've ever been. You're stepping into your own essence. And that essence is not made of flesh or title or memory, it's made of awareness, pure, unfiltered, eternal. As the watchers guide you gently toward the next phase of your journey, you begin to feel something incredible. The understanding that none of this is new. You've been here before. Maybe not exactly like this. Maybe not with these forms or these steps, but your soul has traveled this path in lifetimes long forgotten. This recognition doesn't come from knowledge, it comes from resonance. A sense that, somehow, all of this is familiar because it is part of the deeper truth you've always carried but never had words for. You're no longer asking if you're dead. That question has faded. It has been replaced with something more expansive, more sacred. The feeling that you are alive, in a way you never knew was possible. Not as a person, not as a role, but as awareness itself. And now that you've met the ones who've been waiting, the real journey begins. What if I told you that after death, there is no judge waiting for you, no courtroom in the sky, no list of sins being read aloud? Instead, there is a mirror made not of glass, but of light, feeling, and truth. And into that mirror, your soul is invited to look, not to be punished, not to be shamed, but to remember. By the fourth night, something begins to shift inside you. The emotional density of the earthly pull has softened. The echoes have quieted just enough for a deeper silence to take hold. The kind of silence that doesn't mean absence, but readiness. You feel it before you understand it. A sense that something is coming, something sacred, something you both crave and fear. It begins with a subtle unfolding, as if your soul, now free from the limits of time and form, begins to open its internal archive. You don't see your life as a timeline stretched from birth to death. You feel it all at once, like holding a living tapestry that vibrates with everything you ever were. And it begins to shimmer. This is the life review. But don't let that term mislead you. It is not a test, not a ceremony of reward or punishment. It is a reflection, raw, complete, loving, and undeniably honest. You do not watch your life from a detached distance. You step into it again, moment by moment, not through your own eyes, but through the eyes of those you touched. You become the child you spoke harshly to, and feel their confusion ripple through your own chest. You become the friend you comforted during a dark night, and feel the warmth you gave bloom inside your own field. You become the stranger you ignored, the lover you betrayed, the parent you forgave. Every interaction is lived again, not to label it good or bad, but to experience it in full. Not from ego, but from essence. There is no hiding here, but there is no condemnation either. This is truth in its most compassionate form. The review doesn't dwell on your accomplishments. It doesn't measure your worth by titles, wealth, or success. It asks one question: how did you make others feel? And not just people, animals, spaces, energy. Your frequency in every encounter is remembered, not by facts, but by feeling. If you carried joy, that joy reflects back at you like sunlight on water. If you carried pain, that pain presents itself. not to shame you, but to help you understand what still wants to be healed. In this realm, time does not exist the way you once knew it. You are not being shown clips from a film. You are stepping into layers of consciousness that run parallel, overlapping, and weaving into one another like music in harmony. You don't rewatch your life, you relive it, in flashes of emotion, awareness, and truth that come faster than any clock could measure, yet somehow stretch into eternity. A single second may hold 100 experiences, or an entire decade may pass like breath. Here, time bends around, meaning, not measurement. And in this strange and sacred process, something remarkable happens. You begin to understand why you chose certain paths, why you met certain people, why the pain was so deep, why the joy came when it did. The threads that once seemed random or unfair begin to form a pattern, one that your soul has known all along, even when your human self could not see it. And here's the part that may surprise you the most: you will not hate yourself. Even in your greatest mistakes, you will not recoil. You will feel sorrow, yes. You will feel remorse. But you will also feel love. A love that wraps around every version of you, the kind one, the broken one, the selfish one, the brave one, and says, look at how far you've come. The light that watches you through this review is not there to punish. It is there to witness. And in its witnessing, it invites you to become whole. There are parts of you that won't make it past this night, not because they're bad, but because they were never truly you. The masks you wore to be accepted, the lies you told yourself to survive, the roles you played because the world asked you to, these begin to peel away. You feel them fall like old skin, unnecessary, outdated, heavy, and in their place, something softer rises, your soul in its truest shape. There's no ceremony to mark the shift. It happens quietly, like dew forming on grass. What you carry forward after this night is not your story, but your essence. You bring with you the frequencies you cultivated: love, compassion, courage, humility. These become your passport to whatever lies beyond. Not achievements, but vibrations. Not status, but sincerity. There may be tears, not physical ones, but tears of frequency. The way light weeps when it releases something it no longer needs to carry. You will feel deep release, and with that release, clarity. You will understand that no moment in your life was wasted, that every misstep taught you something, that every wound became a doorway, that even the pain served the purpose of awakening. Some souls linger in this review for what seems like forever, not because they are trapped, but because they choose to soak in the knowing. Others move through quickly, already sensing what awaits on the other side. There is no rush, there is only readiness. When you are ready, the light around you changes, it grows wider, brighter, but not in a blinding way, in a welcoming way, as if the very fabric of love is opening a path forward. You may ask, did I do enough? And the answer won't come in words. It will come in feeling, the warmth that wraps around you, the understanding that fills you, the way your energy begins to hum with harmony instead of resistance. That is your answer. That is your yes. And still, this is only the beginning. The fourth night is not the end of your journey. It is the part where you reclaim yourself, where you shed the illusion of being separate and step into the knowing that you were always more than your choices, more than your wounds, more than your fears. You are a soul on a path so ancient and sacred that it cannot be measured. You are not here to be judged. You are here to remember. And remember you will. You begin to feel something pulling you. It's not a force in the way gravity worked in the world you knew. It's subtler, deeper, like being magnetized from the inside out. A gentle tug at the edge of your awareness calls you forward, and you feel yourself surrendering to it without resistance. There is no path laid out in front of you, but still, you move. Not with effort, with intention. You are being drawn into something that feels both mysterious and inevitable. The space around you begins to shift. The surroundings, if you could call them that, become less defined. What once felt like air or ether now feels like movement itself. It's not darkness, not exactly, but it's void of color, form, or time. It wraps around you like velvet, not to hide you but to prepare you. Something is coming, something sacred. And then, you sense it, an opening, not a doorway, a passage, a tunnel. You don't walk into it, you become part of it. As you enter, you realize it's not made of walls or light or shadow, it's made of consciousness, layers and layers of it. Each step, or thought, draws you deeper into yourself. The tunnel bends and curves, but it doesn't lead downward or upward, it spirals inward. You're not descending into a place, you're descending into truth. And then you see them. Mirrors. They don't hang on walls, and they don't reflect your face as you once knew it. These mirrors are moments, living, breathing, fragments of your own life. They appear around you like flickers of memory, but they don't play out like films, they feel. Each reflection pulses with sensation, with emotion, with resonance. You see yourself not through the eyes of the past, but through the eyes of consequence. You feel how your presence touched others, how your choices rippled through time, how even the smallest decisions left trails in the energetic fabric of life. Some mirrors are beautiful. They glow with the warmth of compassion, kindness, love given freely, moments of grace you didn't even remember. These reflections fill you with something that goes beyond pride. It is peace. A knowing that you lived with meaning, even in moments when you felt lost. That your existence, in ways you never saw, created light in someone else's darkness. These mirrors do not flatter, they reveal truth, but not all mirrors are gentle. Some flash with discomfort. You see yourself in pain, in anger, in fear. You see the words you spoke that wounded others, even unintentionally. You feel the coldness of your own silence, the heaviness of opportunities left untouched. You don't watch from a distance, you feel what others felt in response to you, not as punishment, as understanding. The tunnel doesn't judge, it reveals. And the deeper you go, the less you feel like the you once knew. The identity you wore, the name, the stories, the titles, begins to peel away. Not violently, softly, like petals falling from a flower that no longer needs to bloom. You begin to dissolve, but not into nothingness, into essence. Your ego, once the loudest voice, fades into a whisper and then into silence. What remains is presence. You are still aware, still perceiving, but no longer as someone. You are now awareness itself, pure, open, witnessing. At this point, some souls panic. They feel themselves slipping away and try to grasp at anything, memories, names, fears, desires. But there is nothing solid to cling to in this place. And the more one resists, the more the mirrors begin to distort. They no longer show what was, but instead reflect inner turmoil, magnified. The tunnel becomes chaotic, filled with fragments of unfinished thoughts, unresolved pain, distorted identities. These souls aren't being punished, they're being shown the residue of what they haven't let go of. The tunnel holds no malice, it only reflects. But if you surrender, truly surrender, the mirrors become gateways. Each one reveals a truth, then opens into another layer of understanding. You begin to see your life not as a sequence of moments, but as a symphony. Every pain, every joy, every failure and triumph formed chords that built a melody only you could create. You begin to realize there was never a moment that didn't matter. Every breath, even the forgotten ones, were sacred. Eventually, you no longer look at the mirrors as something separate. They merge with you, not to trap you in your past, but to integrate it. You don't just remember your life, you own it, fully. Without guilt, without shame, without illusion, just truth. And that truth is healing. As the last of the mirrors fades, the tunnel begins to change. A light begins to grow, not in front of you, but within you. You don't move toward it, it radiates from your center. The passage begins to dissolve, the walls become soft, like mist, the spiral opens, and in that moment, you feel something magnificent, the presence of what lies beyond. You don't see it yet, not fully, but you know it. It's not a place, it's not a heaven or realm with gates and thrones, it's a frequency, a field. A state of being so pure, so expansive, that your soul vibrates in recognition. You are on the threshold now. For the first time since your departure from the physical world, you feel forward motion, not just movement, but momentum, not a push from behind, but a pull from ahead. It's like the universe itself is calling you home, and for a moment, you remember what you truly are, not who you were in one life, but who you have always been. A soul, a spark, an extension of the infinite, traveling through form to discover itself again and again. The tunnel was not a corridor, it was a ceremony, a sacred passage through the temple of your own consciousness. You now stand at the exit, not in triumph, but in surrender. And in that surrender, something ancient awakens in you, something vast, something eternal. You realize now that the soul doesn't die, it evolves. And this glimpse of what lies beyond, is not the end. It is the beginning of remembering everything that lives beyond the limits of time and flesh. What waits for you now cannot be understood with thought. It must be felt with the part of you that remains when all else is stripped away. And that part is ready. What if I told you that even after death, the deepest truths you tried to avoid in life still find you, not to torment, but to liberate? By the sixth night, something within your soul starts to rise, slowly, like smoke, lifting from the ashes of who you used to be. You've crossed the threshold of the life review. You've seen yourself through the eyes of others and felt the full weight of your presence in the world. But now, something more personal emerges, something heavier, something more delicate. This is the night where the unfinished reveals itself, not just events or actions, but emotions, choices you never made, words you swallowed, parts of you that never got to live. You begin to feel them before you see them. It's a pressure in your field, a heaviness in the places where your soul still clings to the life you left behind, not because you haven't moved forward, but because something within you still hopes for one more moment, one more apology, one more breath with someone you loved but never truly told, one more chance to be who you always knew you could be. This is not punishment. This is grace dressed as gravity. Your awareness gently drifts toward the memories you avoided in life, the opportunities you let pass by, the conversations you postponed, thinking there would always be time, the dreams you shelved for later. And now, later never came. You don't see these moments like a movie. You feel them in waves, like soft storms moving through your energy field. A friend you didn't call back. A child you never fully embraced. A truth you kept buried beneath a mask. It's not the loss that stings. It's the realization that you were the one holding the key all along. And yet, you are not condemned by this recognition. You are held, cradled in an energy so deeply forgiving that it breaks you open with its tenderness. This is where grace enters. Not from outside of you, but from within. The part of you that can now look at your own failures, not with shame, but with compassion. The part of you that whispers, you did the best you could with what you knew, and more importantly, you don't have to carry this anymore. Grace is not permission to forget, it is permission to release. You begin to feel the difference between guilt and responsibility. Guilt clings to you like static. Responsibility empowers you to grow. You may begin to understand the layers of why you chose what you did. You see the fear that made you run, the protection that made you lie, the pain that made you shut down, and in seeing it clearly, the energy begins to shift. You are not excusing your choices, you are understanding them, and in doing so, you create space for healing. Some souls resist this part of the journey. They hold tightly to the belief that they should have done better, should have been different. They loop in the echoes of regret, believing it is noble to suffer. But suffering is not what the soul came here for. Suffering is what you release through understanding, not what you cling to in its absence. And here, in this luminous space beyond time, you are offered the rarest of invitations, to forgive yourself. You begin to see the patterns of your life with startling clarity, the relationships that repeated, the mistakes that showed up in different costumes, the addictions, the abandonments, the hesitations. You feel them not as random, but as karmic threads, threads woven into the soul long before this lifetime began. Some of them were born from old contracts, agreements made between souls to play out certain roles, to teach each other, challenge each other, awaken each other. And now, those threads shimmer in your awareness, asking to be reviewed. You don't see contracts like documents. You feel them as vibrations, a lingering heaviness in your connection with someone, a strange tug toward a soul you hurt, a sense that something is still incomplete, even though the lifetime has ended. These are not punishments. They are invitations to complete what was started, not through action, but through intention. Sometimes, Closure doesn't come in the physical world. It comes in this realm, where truth is weightless, and love is the language. And then comes the moment you didn't expect, the choice. You are shown what you are still holding: regret, resentment, grief, guilt. But you are not forced to let go. You are invited to. And that choice is yours. You can cling to the weight, return to it, replay it, or you can release it. Not by forgetting, but by transforming it, by letting it dissolve into the field of all that is, where pain is no longer punishment, but the soil of wisdom. Some souls hold on longer. They are not ready. They still believe they must pay a price for their mistakes. But the soul doesn't demand a price. It offers a path, and that path is made of light, not law. You begin to feel this light, subtle at first, like dawn creeping through the cracks of an old room, then stronger, warmer, and the more you release, the more it grows. This is the light of grace. It doesn't fix what you did, it doesn't erase it, but it reveals what it taught you, and when you fully accept that learning, you are changed, not into someone else, but into the version of you who finally understands why it all mattered. You realize you were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be whole, and wholeness includes your wounds, includes your stumbles, includes the parts of you that once couldn't see clearly, and now can. This is the alchemy of the soul. Regret becomes reflection, reflection becomes wisdom, wisdom becomes light, and that light is not given to you, it is you, revealed. And now, a new space opens. Not a place, but a frequency. You feel lighter. Not because everything is resolved, but because you are no longer resisting what is unresolved. You carry only what you need: love, insight, compassion, and you let the rest fall like autumn leaves on a quiet path. As the sixth night draws to its close, you stand in a stillness that feels sacred. There is no more racing through memories, no more holding your breath. There is only this: the recognition that you are forgiven, not by some distant being, but by your own soul. The part of you that always knew you were more than your mistakes, the part of you that waited patiently for this moment of soft release. And now, as you stand at the edge of what you once were, you feel it: the freedom of not having to carry what no longer serves you, the grace of knowing that everything left undone can still become part of your healing, the peace of realizing that nothing was wasted. You are not what you failed to do, you are what you are becoming, and the light ahead is waiting. There is a stillness that feels different tonight. Not the same stillness that greeted you when you first separated from the body, nor the peaceful quiet of drifting through memory or reflection. This is something deeper, more charged. The space around you seems to pulse with a kind of expectancy, like everything is holding its breath. You sense something is near. Not a being, not a place, but a moment. One that has waited patiently for you to arrive. And now, it is here. You feel it before you see it. A subtle shift in the atmosphere. A thinning of the space between what was and what is becoming. The veil, the boundary between worlds, no longer feels distant. It is right in front of you now, delicate as silk, trembling like the surface of water. It is not heavy, it does not block your way. But it requires something from you. To pass through it, you must bring only what is real. You stand, or float, or simply are, at the threshold. There is no grand announcement, no booming voice declaring your readiness. There is only this soft but undeniable truth. You cannot bring your identity with you, not the name, not the story, not even the roles you cherished most. The soul cannot carry baggage across this line. It must cross naked, stripped of illusion, memory, and masks. This is not an erasure, it is a return. But to most souls, this moment feels like a loss. You may feel hesitation rise in you. It is natural. You have spent an entire lifetime, and perhaps many, building a sense of self. You became someone. Someone who loved and lost, someone who fought, who healed, who hoped. And now, you are being asked to let that someone go, not to reject them, but to release them like a child setting down a favorite toy, knowing it no longer defines who they are. Many souls resist at this point. Even after all the realizations, all the reflections, all the truths already faced, this part feels final in a way that nothing else has. Some cling to the echo of their name. Others hold on to emotional attachments, identities formed by pain or pride. The idea of letting go of even that last thread of me feels like death itself. But the irony is, it is not death, it is freedom. You may begin to feel two vibrations inside of you now. One pulls you backward, toward all that is familiar, all that once was. It is softer now, but still present, the memory of a world where things made sense in a linear way, where you had a place, a body, a voice. The other vibration pulls you forward, not with urgency, but with grace. It is the frequency of something beyond comprehension. It has no shape, but it feels like home. It does not speak, but it says everything. And then, light. Not everyone sees it. Not right away. It does not appear for the sake of appearances. It reveals itself in response to you. If you have softened, surrendered, opened, even a little, it will rise around you like the dawn. But it is not a light like sunlight or fire. It has no source and no shadow. It is not outside you. It emanates from within and all around, as if existence itself is illuminating you from every direction. If your heart is still clouded with resistance, you may see only mist, a soft grayness, not punishment, just a reflection of your own vibration. The universe is not withholding light. It is waiting for you to remember that you are made of it. The more you let go, the more you see. And when you do see it, it's not just beautiful, it's truth. It is recognition in the purest form. This is the crossing. It doesn't happen with a step, or a flight, or any kind of movement the human mind could understand. It happens with permission. You must give yourself to it, completely. Not as a person hoping to be carried into something better, but as a soul willing to dissolve into what it truly is. To cross is not to enter a place, it is to merge with a state of being. Some describe it as becoming the light. Others speak of merging with a field of consciousness so vast it erases any sense of separation. There is no right language for it, because language was built for contrast, and there is none here. There is only the one, the all, and to cross is to allow yourself to be remembered by it. But crossing is not automatic, not because it is earned, but because it is chosen. You must want it more than the identity you've carried. You must value truth more than familiarity. You must trust what lies beyond, even if your former self cannot comprehend it. And for some souls, that trust takes lifetimes. If you hesitate, you are not banished. There is no punishment. You may drift, you may wait, you may choose to return to physical form, to try again, to soften more, to live from love in deeper ways. The universe never forces transformation, it only invites it, always with patience, always with compassion. But if you say yes, if you let yourself fall forward into the unseen, you do not fall at all. You expand, you rise, not upward, outward. You begin to remember what you were before the name, before the form, before the first breath of your last life. You were always this: consciousness, radiance, awareness without boundary. And in that expansion, you feel something beyond words: completion, not an ending, but a wholeness, a fullness that has no opposite. A state so vast, so peaceful, that you no longer feel the need to hold on to anything. You are no longer becoming. You simply are. Somewhere behind you, the echoes of the earthly world still hum. The names, the stories, the people you loved, they are not gone. They are still unfolding, still creating, still seeking. But you are no longer bound to them. You bless them from a space beyond thought, beyond time. You see them now not as characters in your story, but as extensions of the same light you have become. This is not heaven. It is not a reward. It is not a destination. It is you, finally unfiltered. You are not standing in the presence of the divine. You are the presence of the divine, reawakened. And just like that, the veil disappears. It never truly existed. It was only the illusion of separation. Now that you have crossed, you see that what you thought was outside of you was always within. What you feared losing was never lost. What you believed was the end was only a veil, soft as breath, thin as light. You did not vanish. You returned. What if I told you that not every soul moves on right away after death, that some remain, not because they're trapped by force, but by choice? By this point in the journey, many souls have felt the invitation to cross fully into the light, to merge with the deeper dimensions of their being, to release the identity of their former life and embrace the path forward. But not all souls take that step. Some linger. some hover just beyond the veil, not quite here, not fully there. You might call them spirits, some call them ghosts, but what they truly are souls still in motion, still holding on to something that binds them to the world they once knew. There is no divine decree that forces every soul to transition at once. The laws of the universe are governed more by resonance than by rules, and free will doesn't end when the body does. In many ways, it becomes even more pronounced. You're no longer limited by the distractions of the physical world, so every thought, every attachment, every unresolved emotion becomes magnified. If the soul isn't ready, it won't go, not because it can't, but because something inside it is still reaching backward. Some souls stay earthbound because of deep attachment. They may feel their life was taken too soon, cut short before their story could finish. They cling to the people they love, the places they called home, the identities they worked so hard to build. To them, letting go feels like disappearing, like becoming nothing, and so they stay. Not to harm, not to frighten, but because part of them believes they're not done yet. Others are pulled back by addiction, not just to substances, but to patterns, to power, to control, to the sensations of the physical world. A soul who was addicted in life may carry that craving into death, and without a body to satisfy it, the longing becomes amplified. They may seek out places or people with similar vibrations, drawn to environments that match the unresolved frequencies within them. Some are not ready to face what lies beyond because facing it means confronting their pain. And pain, even for a soul, can feel overwhelming when it hasn't yet been processed. Then there is revenge. Souls who died with unresolved anger, betrayal, or injustice may linger close to the living world, still tangled in the illusion of retribution. They believe their suffering deserves repayment, that their story cannot be complete until someone else feels what they felt. These souls are not evil, they are wounded. But their energy can be disruptive, heavy, and unsettling to those who are sensitive to such frequencies. They may attach to places, to objects, or to people, attempting to finish what they started. But in truth, they are only looping inside their own unresolved karma. And then, there is love. Love, in its highest form, guides the soul toward release. But in its most desperate form, love can also tether a soul to the world it once held dear. A mother who lost her child may refuse to move on, fearing her absence will cause the child pain. A partner who died suddenly may hover over the one they left behind, terrified to leave them alone. These souls don't mean to stay out of fear, they stay out of devotion. But what they don't yet understand is that real love never requires possession. Love expands when it's allowed to flow, when it's set free. Earthbound souls can and do influence the living. Most of the time, it's subtle. A shift in temperature, a flicker of light, an unexpected emotion that doesn't quite feel like yours. Sometimes, it's stronger. Dreams that feel like visitations, recurring thoughts or impulses that seem foreign. Sensitive people, especially children, may feel these presences clearly. Animals, too. They pick up on the energetic residue of a soul who hasn't yet moved on. In some cases, the presence of an earthbound soul can create emotional disturbances in a home or amplify existing tensions between people. But this influence is not about haunting in the way movies portray it. It's more like emotional static, an echo trying to communicate, trying to be seen. Earthbound spirits are not inherently malicious. They are simply stuck, and often all they need is acknowledgement, a prayer, a permission, a light to follow. What many people don't realize is that just because a soul is earthbound now, doesn't mean they're destined to stay that way. Time does not bind them. They may linger for days or for decades, depending on their awareness and readiness, but the doorway home is always open, the invitation never expires. And as their frequency begins to shift, often through the prayers of loved ones, the healing of family lineages, or their own growing clarity, they begin to feel the pull again. There are countless stories of spirits who remained for years, only to finally move on after a moment of grace, a ritual performed, a truth spoken. Sometimes, all it takes is someone living to say, "You can go now, it's okay." And that moment of release becomes a bridge. The soul remembers, the light reappears, and they cross, not in fear, but in peace. This is why ancestral healing matters. Why spiritual cleansing is more than superstition. The spaces we live in, the families we are born into, they hold energy. And sometimes, that energy includes the presence of those who never quite left. But we are not powerless. We are part of their story, and they are part of ours. Some earthbound souls may even act as protectors, hovering not out of fear, but out of love. They don't yet understand how to move on, but they do their best to help from where they are. Their presence is felt as comfort, intuition, synchronicity. These are not souls to fear. These are souls to guide. The choice to move on is always available. No one is ever truly lost. The soul is not fragile. It is eternal. And sometimes, it takes longer for some to remember that. The universe does not punish them for their delay. It waits with open arms. Whether they cross on the 7th night, or the 7,000th day, the light is patient. The soul is always welcome home. So if you've ever felt a presence lingering near you, if you've ever sensed a whisper in the dark or a gentle nudge in your dreams, know this: you might be the one they're waiting for. Not to rescue them, but to remind them that they are not bound by regret, that they are not lost to the shadows, that the door is still open, and when they're ready, they will walk through it, into the light that never stopped calling them, into the grace that never stopped loving them. Because even after death, we are all still learning how to let go, and all still being called home. There is a moment when you stop trying to look, not because you've lost interest or become passive, but because you finally understand that vision here is not necessary. You begin to experience the realm around you in a way that does not rely on eyes, or ears, or skin. In fact, the very idea of around you dissolves. There is no distance, only presence. You're no longer confined to perception through organs, you are perception. Consciousness is no longer something you hold, it is what you are. And from this state, a new kind of awareness blooms. You do not see landscapes, colors, or figures in the traditional sense. What you feel is everything. And not feeling in the emotional sense alone. This is sensation without sensory input, knowledge without thought. It is immediate, complete, and undeniably real. Imagine tasting a sound, understanding an emotion as a shape, or moving without motion. What occurs here defies physical logic but makes perfect sense to your expanded self. It feels like you've returned to a language your soul always knew, one that was never spoken but forever remembered in silence. There is no need to navigate with eyes or step with feet. In this realm, intention is the engine. Where your awareness goes, your essence follows. You don't walk, you gravitate. You're drawn toward frequencies, not places. You find yourself aligning with experiences and beings that mirror your vibration. That becomes your compass, not north or south, but the state of your inner being. High vibrations carry you into lighter, faster states of existence. Lower ones hold you in slower, denser experiences. Nothing is imposed, everything is magnetized. This is a realm of resonance. Everything you encounter responds directly to what you emanate. If your essence vibrates with peace, you find yourself surrounded by clarity and lightness. If there is fear or confusion within you, it reverberates outward, and what surrounds you feels dim, fragmented, or closed. The outer world is not separate from your state, it is shaped by it. You are no longer in a world, you are inside the reflection of your own consciousness. You begin to realize how deeply your vibration matters. In the physical world, you could hide behind words, appearances, and gestures. Here, nothing can be concealed. Every thought, every intention, every ripple of feeling becomes a visible, tangible experience. You don't need to explain yourself, you are yourself. And in that transparency, truth becomes the atmosphere you breathe. Time ceases to matter. Not because it vanishes, but because it bends to your awareness. A single moment can stretch into what feels like eternity, or collapse into a flash of knowing. You begin to navigate not by hours or days, but by shifts in understanding. You remain where you need to remain, until something within you evolves. Then, without effort, you rise, or sink, into the next layer of experience. Movement is no longer determined by desire, but by frequency. There is a tenderness to this place, but also a sacred accountability. You cannot lie to yourself here. If you carry unresolved grief, anger, or fear, it echoes around you until you meet it with presence. Not to punish you, but to free you. Every aspect of your unhealed self rises not to harm you, but to be witnessed and transmuted. Healing is not imposed, it is invited through awareness. And as you face each fragment with compassion, your frequency shifts. That shift is your passport. You rise because you've lightened. Some souls move quickly. Their energy is ready. Their lessons have been integrated. Others linger, not because they're blocked, but because their being still holds density that needs to be seen. But even in these lower vibrational spaces, there is no darkness in the way the living understand it. There is only the echo of disconnection, waiting for recognition. Everything here longs to return to wholeness, and everything is given the time it needs. You may begin to sense the presence of others, not as figures or faces, but as energies that interact with yours. Sometimes they feel like familiar songs, other times like unknown frequencies you once resonated with, in lives long forgotten. Communication is instant, pure, and full. There is no need for language because there is no misunderstanding. Thought becomes transmission, emotion becomes communion, and in that communion, you feel more seen than you ever did in physical form. You may encounter beings whose energy is so refined, so radiant, that simply being near them transforms you. They do not teach in words, their presence is the lesson. Their vibration is a blueprint for what is possible, and as you attune to them, parts of you recalibrate, not because they make it happen, but because you remember what you are capable of becoming. Sometimes you'll feel yourself drawn to a particular space, not for rest or escape, but for integration. These are spaces that feel like soft containers for your consciousness, not physical, but energetic. Like wombs of light, designed to hold your essence while you process, release, and remember. In these spaces, time dissolves entirely. You could remain for what feels like seconds or centuries, and both would be true. You stay as long as you need to, until your being is ready to expand again. Everything here is in service of evolution, not progress in a linear sense, but expansion in a spiraling sense. You are not climbing, you are unfolding. You are not striving, you are remembering. And with each layer you release, your awareness sharpens. You begin to sense levels of reality that make even this plane feel like a stepping stone. You sense dimensions beyond dimensions, each more subtle and vibrant than the last. And with that awareness comes humility, a deep knowing that the journey never ends because the self is infinite. In this space, you no longer ask, "What's next?" because you understand that what's next is created through your being. There is no map, no destination waiting to be discovered. There is only alignment. When you are ready for a new experience, it reveals itself not as a reward, but as a match. There are no gates to be passed through, no tests to be passed. Only mirrors that respond to your resonance. Only doors that open from within. Eventually, the very idea of separation begins to fade. Not just separation from others, but from source. You no longer feel like a drop of water looking for the ocean. You feel like the ocean learning to recognize itself in every wave. The distinctions between you and the light, between thought and being, between perception and presence, they soften until only one truth remains. You are. And yet the journey continues. You don't need to see to believe here. You don't need to hear to know. You feel everything, not with your body, but with your essence. And what you feel isn't data or information, it's truth. Pure, living, evolving truth. And in that truth, you find peace, not as a place you reach, but as a frequency you become. Peace is not somewhere you go. It's what you arrive at when all that isn't you has fallen away. And so you continue, not walking, not floating, but gravitating, called forward not by obligation, but by resonance. Everything ahead of you is shaped by everything within you, and what awaits is not something separate from you, but something you are finally ready to remember. What if I told you that when you finally reach the threshold between this world and the next, you are not greeted by strangers, but by a presence that feels like home itself? By the 11th night, something profound unfolds. You've shed layers of identity, released the residue of physical life, and faced the echoes of your choices, your regrets, your love. What remains now is essence, the distilled frequency of your soul. And it is from this frequency that the next chapter of your journey is shaped. You approach a gate, not a physical structure, but a vibrational boundary, one you feel, rather than see, and waiting there is someone, or something, and they are not there by chance. Who meets you at the first gate is never random. It is always aligned with the vibration of your soul, your truth, your needs, your readiness. For some, it is a beloved parent who passed before them. For others, it may be a sibling, a grandparent, or even a child. And for many, it is someone they never met in their earthly life, but whom they instantly recognize. The moment is not marked by surprise, but by a wordless knowing. A reunion, not an introduction. A return, not a beginning. You feel it before you see it. A presence approaching, not rushed, not forceful, but vast, calm, and utterly familiar. And when your soul makes contact, something deep within you exhales. This presence may take the shape of a human form, a face you once knew, a soft outline made of light. Or it may remain formless, yet somehow more real than anything you've ever known. You may not recall their name from your earthly memory, but your soul knows them. You recognize the frequency, a tone that has always been with you, humming quietly in the background of your life. You are not alone. That becomes unmistakably clear. Even if no one speaks, even if no words are exchanged, you feel surrounded by energy, by awareness, by love. These are not just guides, they are your soul family, beings who have walked with you through lifetimes. Some incarnated in the physical world with you, others remaining in the unseen, whispering gently to you through intuition, dreams, and synchronicity. Now, they step forward, not to tell you what to do, but simply to be with you, to witness, to welcome. But you are not forced, that truth must be said. There is no one pulling you across the threshold, no pressure to follow. The decision to move forward is always yours. The beings who meet you at this first gate offer only love and remembrance. If you are not ready, they wait. If you have questions, they listen. If you still feel attachments, they hold space. You are not coerced. You are never commanded. You are invited. This is the sacred difference between spiritual authority and earthly control. Here, there is no domination, only resonance. Your readiness determines what unfolds. And what meets you will never be more than you can hold, and never less than what you need. Some are welcomed by faces so familiar it brings the soul to tears. The mother who held you through your first breath is there for your last. The best friend who left too soon stands smiling, not with sadness, but with the peace of one who now sees everything clearly. The ancestor you never knew in life, but who shaped your path from behind the scenes, steps forward to take your hand. These reunions are not imagined. They are not wishful thinking. They are energetic truths, the magnetic bonds of love that never break, even through the veil of death. Others are not greeted by individuals they recognize, but by pure presence, fields of light, beings without faces or names, yet overflowing with love and remembrance. You may feel as if you're being seen for the first time, not the surface you, not the personality you crafted, but the soul that you truly are. These beings do not judge. They emanate peace, clarity, acceptance, and in their gaze, you begin to remember yourself beyond this life, beyond all lives. The depth of this recognition is not based on memory as you knew it in the physical world. It's something deeper, something that stretches beyond time and space. It's the way your energy responds when it finally comes into contact with what it has always been a part of, like two notes in a song finding harmony again, like a river remembering the ocean. This is not new, it is ancient. And yet, it feels entirely fresh, like a truth you always knew but could never quite grasp, until now. What determines who you meet at this gate is not what you believed or what religion you followed. It is not whether you were perfect or flawed. It is who you are at the soul level, your vibration, your resonance. The beings that greet you align with that frequency. If you lived with compassion, you will be met with compassion. If you lived with fear, you will be met with gentleness that dissolves it. If you walked the path of a seeker, you may be greeted by a guide who has waited across many lifetimes to walk beside you again. And if your heart still holds questions, they are not pushed away. The beings who welcome you do not demand that you be ready. They help you become ready. Sometimes, their presence alone does this. You feel yourself soften. You feel walls you didn't know you built begin to fall. You feel loved in a way that no human relationship ever quite captured, not because they didn't try, but because only this kind of soul-to-soul recognition could touch you so fully. You may weep, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming release of all the pretending, all the striving, all the forgetting. Here, you are remembered. Here, you remember yourself. And still, you are not pushed forward. The light beyond the gate pulses gently, like an open doorway. You may step through, you may wait. Some choose to pause, to reflect more, to ask questions, to feel more. And that is honored. There is no shame in timing. Some souls step forward immediately, with joy. Others linger, with reverence. But all are embraced, because this is not a test, this is a homecoming, and you are the only one who knows when it is time to cross that threshold. But know this, when that moment comes, you will not walk alone. You will be held by those who've waited lifetimes to walk beside you again. And as you pass through the first gate, it won't feel like leaving something behind. It will feel like finally coming home. There comes a moment in the soul's journey when movement slows, not to a halt, but to a stillness filled with meaning. It is not stagnation, it is precision. You find yourself in a space unlike the others you've encountered so far. It's quieter here, but not empty. In fact, it feels more full than anything you've ever experienced. Full of potential, full of intelligence, full of presence. There is a subtle sense that something is being prepared. Or perhaps, more accurately, something is being sorted. But not by anyone. There is no judge, no panel waiting with scrolls and verdicts. The sorting is not external, it's internal. You feel it happening from the inside out, like energy rearranging itself according to a new truth. Your frequency begins to stabilize, like water settling after being stirred. It no longer fluctuates wildly with emotion or memory. It begins to reflect your essence, not the self you performed, but the self you are, when all illusions have fallen away. This is where the soul's next path begins to emerge, not through decision-making in the way the mind once did, but through resonance. You don't choose your direction is chosen through you. Your frequency is a map, and it now leads you forward, or, more accurately, deeper. You begin to understand. This is not about reward or punishment. It's not about heaven or hell. Those were metaphors, stories built to point toward this truth. The reality is far more subtle and far more profound. You are not placed somewhere. You are matched to it. What awaits you is the space that mirrors your current state of being. If you carry peace, clarity, humility, and love, you gravitate toward dimensions that reflect those qualities in their purest form. These realms feel expansive, crystalline, rich with beauty that transcends form. Beings who reside there are not superior, they are aligned. Their energy resonates with yours, and in that shared field, you begin to feel the pull of true communion. If your energy still holds contraction, fear, guilt, regret, you may gravitate to spaces that allow you to work with those frequencies. Again, there is no punishment, only matching. These are not dark places in the way the physical mind imagines darkness. They are simply slower vibrations, denser with unprocessed energy. Souls who find themselves here are not cast out. They are held in a state of reflection until they are ready to release what weighs them down. And they will, eventually. All souls rise, but each in their own time. In this great sorting, you also begin to sense something astonishing. The presence of your higher self, not as an external being floating above you, but as the greater field of consciousness you have always been a part of. Until now, you were experiencing only a strand of that vastness, a single expression woven through a human life. But here, the veil between your smaller self and your fuller self begins to dissolve, the boundaries soften, the merging begins. At first, it feels like memory returning, but it's more than memory, it's magnitude. You begin to feel the enormity of what you are beyond this single incarnation. You sense other lives, other expressions, not as past or future but as parallel movements within the same great field. Your being expands to include them, not as identities to attach to, but as experiences to integrate. You are not this or that. You are the awareness in which all of this and that occurred. In the presence of your higher self, old timelines begin to shed, not just memories, but identities. Personas you carried across lifetimes dissolve into light. You feel layers of pain, trauma, and ego melting off like wax from a candle that no longer needs to burn. You do not lose yourself in this process. You find yourself beyond the limitations you once believed were you. And with each release, your frequency sharpens. You become clearer, more whole, more real. Some souls complete this merging fully. They move into dimensions where individual identity fades into unity consciousness. They no longer need to reincarnate because they've extracted the essence of form they have remembered. These souls become what some might call guides, light beings, or masters, not because they are above, but because they are through. They have passed through the illusion of separation and become conduits of pure awareness. But not all souls are ready for that. Some, even in the midst of merging, feel a tug, a pull, not from ego, but from purpose. They feel the call to return. Not out of obligation, but out of love. These souls choose to reincarnate, not to escape karma, but to complete it with grace, to assist others, to experience new lessons from a higher vantage point. They don't return because they must, they return because they can. Before returning, such souls enter a state of sacred planning. But not in the way humans plan with calendars and goals. Here, planning is energetic. The soul aligns with lessons, people, circumstances that will serve its next evolution. It selects not from desire, but from wisdom. And often, souls will even choose difficulty, not as punishment, but as opportunity. They understand that in density, light is refined. That in forgetting, there is sacred remembering. That in contrast, truth shines brighter. For others, the return is not chosen immediately. They remain in realms of healing, integration, or even exploration. They study, connect, commune with others. They rest in divine stillness, free from the compulsion to do or become. They simply are. And in that being, they prepare, whether consciously or not, for whatever comes next. In this great sorting, one thing becomes clear. No soul is lost. No soul is abandoned. Every path is honored. Every frequency finds its match. Every choice is rooted in truth. There are no enemies here, no verdicts, no final endings. Only movement through layers of remembrance. Only deeper expressions of what you truly are. You begin to feel peace that surpasses what you ever imagined peace to be, because it is not passive, it is not quiet for the sake of calm. It is vibrant, alive, and vast. This peace is born from alignment, from resonance between who you are and where you are. And that resonance is the soul's true home. You may come to realize, here in this sorting, that death was never the separation point. It was the doorway to the real reunion. The reunion not just with loved ones or guides, but with yourself. With your source. You now understand why the soul travels, not to escape, not to acquire, but to remember. And now, in this space beyond judgment, beyond illusion, you remember. You are not a fragment. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are home. And the home was always within you. What if I told you that every moment you have ever loved, every embrace, every sacrifice, every time you chose kindness when you could have turned away, has been preparing your soul for what comes next? By the 13th night, something begins to unfold that can't be measured in time or space. It's not another vision, not a memory, not even a guide appearing from the distance. It is love, not as emotion, not as sentiment, but as reality itself. And it rises in you like a wave of remembrance, not something you're discovering for the first time, but something you're finally returning to. In this moment, you begin to understand what all the mystics, sages, and poets tried to express, that love is not a feeling you possess. It is the substance from which you are made. It is the thread that weaves through every layer of your being, the force that carried you through lifetimes, the one truth that never dies. If you have loved deeply, even once, you are already attuned to the vibration of the afterlife, because love, in its truest form, is the language of the soul. It transcends the body, surpasses thought, moves beyond death, and as you step deeper into the soul realm, you realize, love is the bridge. It is the bridge between this world and the next. It is the bridge between souls. It is the bridge between who you thought you were and who you truly are. There is a misconception in the physical world that death is frightening because it is the unknown. But for those who have truly loved, death is not foreign. It is familiar, because in every moment of deep love, you were already touching the eternal. Every time you held someone's pain and didn't run from it, every time you gave without needing something back, every time you stayed when it would have been easier to leave, you practiced death in the most beautiful way. You died to the self and remembered the soul. You see, love teaches you to let go, and death, at its core, is a surrender into love. In this 13th night, your soul stands fully immersed in that love. It's no longer coming in waves, it is the ocean, and you are floating in it, breathing it, becoming it. The love you gave in life returns to you, not as a reward, but as a recognition. You see how every act of love left a trail of light behind you, how it softened your path and illuminated the way forward. And you also feel how the love of others held you up, even when you couldn't see it. The prayers whispered in silence, the forgiveness someone gave you without telling you, the moments someone chose to understand you instead of judge you. All of this becomes visible now. It was always with you, it never faded, it never disappeared, and now you are swimming in it. Love, even after death, continues to anchor souls. It binds the realms together, not as a trap, but as a golden thread of remembrance. A soul who loved fiercely in life may still hover close to those they left behind, not out of fear, but as a guardian, a light that continues to shine just beyond the edge of vision. They may walk with their loved ones in dreams, send subtle waves of comfort in moments of grief, appear in flashes of memory at the exact time they're needed. This love does not keep them from evolving, it expands them, because love, unlike attachment, does not bind, it bridges, it connects, it flows, it grows. The more you love, the more your soul becomes. And when you reach the soul realms, that growth becomes unmistakable. There are souls who were scholars, mystics, warriors, and yet, they tremble at the threshold of the next gate. But those who loved deeply, they do not tremble. They remember. Something within them already recognizes the light. They don't fear merging into it, they yearn for it. Because they've touched that same light in every moment of true love on earth. They've lived with the eternal pulsing through their temporary form. This is why loving consciously in life is not just an emotional act, it is spiritual preparation. Every time you choose to love when it's hard, when you forgive even though your pain screams not to, when you let yourself be seen, raw and real, you are preparing for the afterlife. You are aligning your soul with the very essence it will meet on the other side. You are practicing eternity inside a body. And so, when the soul begins to dissolve the last remnants of personality, identity, and narrative, what remains is love. Not just who you loved, but how. Not just what you received, but what you gave. And that love begins to call you forward, not with words, but with vibration. You may feel it as a pull, gentle but unmistakable. A resonance with something just beyond the veil. It doesn't ask, it invites, it doesn't push, it calls. You are being drawn toward your soul's greater unfolding, and love is the map, it is the gravity, it is the force that says, you are ready. And in this call, you begin to remember something even deeper. That love is not something you found in life, it is something you are. The soul is not made of matter, the soul is made of love. It is the same love that created the stars, the galaxies, the unseen worlds, and you are a spark of that, carried into form, learning through contrast, discovering through joy and loss what love really is. So if you've loved deeply, you are not afraid, because there is nothing to fear in becoming what you already are. Death does not strip you, it reveals you. It peels away the layers of doubt, fear, separation, and illusion, until all that's left is truth. And the deepest truth is this: you are love becoming aware of itself. You are not stepping into darkness, you are stepping into remembrance. And as you move forward, you feel the love of all who came before you, all who will come after you, all who loved you, even in silence. That love has built a bridge, and that bridge does not crumble. It carries you forward, into yourself, into the infinite, into the light that never left. You are not afraid, because now, you remember, and in that remembrance, there is only peace. You would think, by the seventh night, everything would be complete. That there would be some kind of finish line, an arrival point, that wraps the journey in a neat conclusion. But as you stand here, on the far edge of what you once thought was death, you realize there is no such thing. Nothing ends. It only transforms. The soul doesn't conclude. It continues. And what lies ahead is not an afterlife. It is life in a deeper, more expanded form. You no longer measure experience in time. There are no clocks here. No rotations of day and night to count or follow. The passing of a week is symbolic. A metaphor for your transformation, not a literal span. By now, time is fluid, bending to the rhythm of your soul's evolution. And what happens after this seventh night isn't about where you go, it's about what you become. You begin to sense it, a spiraling motion, not of the body, but of your essence. Everything moves in spirals here. Nothing is linear. Progress is not a straight line. It is a looping, rising current of expansion. Each turn of the spiral brings you closer to the infinite center of your being, and yet it also expands you outward into new terrains of experience. The paradox is that you are both going deeper within and further beyond at the same time. You've already let go of your physical identity. The name, the role, the story, they've melted into light. You've already moved through the tunnel, seen the mirrors, met the watchers, crossed the veil. And yet, even with all of that behind you, you feel it in your soul. This is not the summit. There is more, not more to achieve, more to remember. You're no longer the you who died. That version of you has shed like a cocoon. But you also haven't disappeared. You've expanded. You are more now, more aware, more present, more real. The boundaries that once defined your sense of self have dissolved. And what remains is something far more vast than you ever thought you could hold. You carry within you the memory of 1,000 lifetimes, the wisdom of countless journeys. And yet, you feel no weight, only spaciousness. Some souls, at this point, enter a period of rest, not sleep as you once knew it, but stillness, a divine pause, a sanctuary for the soul to simply be. There is no pressure here, no tasks, no expectations. Just an open field of presence where awareness can settle, soften, and realign. In this space, healing occurs naturally, not because something is broken, but because every soul, even in its brilliance, needs time to reintegrate after the intensity of form. Other souls feel the call to return. Reincarnation is not a sentence, it's an invitation. It is not something imposed, but something chosen, consciously, with care. A soul might choose to come back not because it failed, but because it loves, because it wishes to assist. Because there are still fragments of experience waiting to be lived, emotions waiting to be understood, relationships waiting to bloom or resolve. Earth is not a place of exile, it is a sacred school. And sometimes, the most advanced souls are the ones who choose to go back, not for themselves, but for others. Then there are those who move into higher realms of light and knowledge. They do not return to density, but continue ascending the spiral of consciousness. They explore realities so refined, they could not be imagined from the physical plane. They work with energies, with frequencies, with creation itself. They become architects of vibration, custodians of planetary evolution, guides to those still walking the human path. They do not look down, they look through, with eyes of compassion that see the soul beneath every mask. And yet, even for these advanced souls, the journey does not end. Because the infinite is not a destination. It is a living, breathing field of becoming. There is always more truth to embody, more love to realize, more unity to experience. No soul ever reaches a final level. Even the most awakened beings are still journeying, still spiraling deeper into the mystery. The divine is not a place to arrive at. It is the rhythm you continue dancing with, lifetime after lifetime, realm after realm. You begin to understand why the ancients called it a return, not because you go back to where you started, but because you return to what you are. Death didn't end you, it returned you. Returned you to the place beneath the roles, beneath the thoughts, beneath the veil. It brought you back into alignment with the source of all things, the field of love and awareness that has always held you. And now, you're free. Free not just from the body, but from the illusion of separation, free from the urgency to prove yourself, free from the fear of endings, because you know now that nothing ends. Even loss is not truly loss. Even goodbyes are not forever. All things eventually return to the light from which they came, and in the light, everything is remembered, everything is loved, everything is whole. You look back, not in sorrow, but in gratitude. Gratitude for the life you lived, gratitude for the lessons, the laughter, the heartbreak, the moments that shaped you. Gratitude for the body that carried your spirit through the density of earth. Gratitude for the pain that softened your ego and opened your heart. Every piece mattered. Every second was sacred. You wouldn't erase a thing. You look forward, not with questions, but with openness. You don't need to know what's next. You only need to be present, because presence is the doorway. You trust now. Not blindly, but deeply, because you've seen with the eyes of the soul. You've felt the truth that lives beyond words. You've crossed the threshold, not into the end, but into the great unfolding. The spiral continues, and so do you, not as a name, not as a story, but as light, aware of itself. And maybe, one day, a new journey will call, a new life, a new body, a new experience, waiting to be loved into being. And if it does, you'll answer, not because you must, but because your soul is forever becoming, forever discovering itself in all forms, forever remembering that the divine is not found in some final place. It is felt in every step, every choice, every breath. So no, death was never the finale, it was just the door. And you were never just a traveler. You are the journey itself, unfolding, transforming, forever, and always becoming more.